May I just point out, if you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient.
Trump's press secretary, Caroline Lewis, obliterates Ilhan Omar and Democrats for their violence-inciting rhetoric. You do not want to miss this. Ilhan Omar and her Democrat allies are out here throwing around dangerous, reckless rhetoric, and Caroline Lewis just shut them down with facts. The hypocrisy is off the charts, and this response is absolutely brutal. Let's check out this must-see takedown.
He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here, and for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
It sounds like something that they're most concerned about is Doge engineers with access to Treasury systems. Can you clarify, do the Doge engineers have read-only access in these systems, so they are not allowed to write new code?
No.
They are not, okay.
No.
And then one more thing, NBC is reporting that some of the illegal immigrants that we've seen rounded up and arrested are not being deported, they're being released with ankle or wrist monitoring devices, or they have to check in on the phone. So is the administration arresting more people than you have room for?
I have seen the reports, and I'm glad you brought it up because we want to address it. There have been a total of 461 illegal aliens, this is of this morning when I got this information from DHS, that have been released from custody of the more than 8,000 that have been arrested since President Trump was inaugurated. It's less than 6%, and there are reasons for their release. Some of the factors include a lack of significant likelihood of removal in the foreseeable future, lack of detention availability, which is something this president and this administration has been incredibly vocal about. We are doing everything we can to deport and detain illegal immigrants, but we need Congress's help to increase funding for Border Patrol and for ICE to increase detention capability in our facilities. And then other serious medical conditions have also been the reasons for some of the release of these individuals. But none of them have final deportation orders. Many of them are probably contesting their immigration status. I'd refer you to DHS for more details, but I did get that information because I knew it'd be a question, so thank you.
If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot. Your support keeps us going and ensures we can keep bringing you the truth. All right, let's jump back in.
Sure.
Caroline?
Yes.
The president and you here again today have made clear, given the devastation, you think Palestinians have no choice but to leave Gaza and go elsewhere. But Palestinians say this is their home. They don't want to go. The president last night said he's willing to use the military if necessary. Is the U.S. prepared to remove Palestinians from Gaza by force?
The president is prepared to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians and all people in the region, peace-loving people who want real economic development and opportunity in the region. This is a region that has been controlled by Iranian-backed terrorists, Hamas, who have brutalized not just Israelis but Palestinians too. It is because of Hamas that you see those images on that screen, that Gaza has become a demolition site because Hamas launched that brutal attack on Israel on October the 7th. And so again, I would stress, President Trump wants to ensure that this can be a place where all people can live in peace. He is a peacemaker in chief.
Sorry to pause here, but can we just take a second to acknowledge the absolute hypocrisy? If a Republican had said half of what these Democrats are saying, the media would be losing their minds. But when it's Ilhan Omar and her crew, silence. It's insane. All right, let's continue.
He made that very clear in his first term. And as for how that will be accomplished, the president and his team are talking with our allies in the region to consider next steps.
But should the American people be prepared to see U.S. military on the ground fighting a ground war against Hamas?
Again, the president has not committed to U.S. troops in the region.
But it is an option.
I have said that the president has not committed to that yet. Garrett, great to see you here today.
Thank you. On Gaza, the president has spent basically his entire public career criticizing foreign entanglements, nation building, sending American troops to fight abroad, particularly in the Middle East. This plan seems like it could ultimately involve all of those things. Can you explain this reversal and how building and owning Gaza squares with America First foreign policy?
I would reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region. And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades.
Sorry to pause again, but let's be real. This is exactly why Trump was elected. He's cutting through the nonsense, exposing the corruption, and making the government actually work for the people. And the Democrats? They're panicking because they know their grip on power is slipping. All right, let's continue.
And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
Because he did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet. He has not made that commitment, and you know that.
And on the foreign partners, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis have already panned this plan. What foreign partners, if any, have expressed any interest in being part of it?
Well, the president has said he's been socialing this idea for quite some time. He's been thinking about this. He said in his remarks last night, this was not a decision or an announcement that he takes lightly. And the president has already spoken to the President al-Sisi. In fact, that was his first foreign leader call. He's meeting with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, next week. He spoke with the King of Bahrain. He spoke with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And he has made it very clear, he's been very vocal, that he expects our partners in the region, particularly Egypt and Jordan, to accept Palestinian refugees temporarily so that we can rebuild their home. I'd like to show you some images of Gaza that were taken. Fox News aired this. I mean, that is, as they put it, an apocalyptic scene in Gaza. This is an uninhabitable place for human beings. Do you really think that families can live their dream in a region that looks like this, with no running water, no electricity? And the special envoy to the president, Steve Witkoff, recently traveled to Gaza, as you all know. And he came back with images that he showed the president of the dire situation here. And the president made this decision with a humanitarian heart for all people in the region. Dasha.
Caroline, you said the president has been working on this idea for a while behind the scenes now.
So, Congresswoman Lonica MacGyver says, we are at war. Ilhan Omar warns we could see people literally getting killed. And Chris Van Hollen? He's calling for fights in Congress and in the streets. Yeah, you heard that right. Democrats are now openly pushing street battles over government policy. Imagine for a second if a Republican leader said, we are at war, or we need to fight in the streets. The mainstream media would be screaming about insurrection or extremism. But when Dems say it, crickets. And what's this all about? Doge. Yeah, apparently Elon Musk teaming up with Trump to make the government more efficient is the biggest threat to democracy since, well, the last thing they freaked out over. They're mad that Doge engineers have read-only access to treasury systems, meaning they can't change anything. But the left is panicking like it's the end of the world. Let's get real. Trump was elected to drain the swamp and clean up the bloated federal bureaucracy. And now, he's actually doing it. The Democrats are terrified because their corrupt system is being exposed. They want business as usual, wasteful spending, backroom deals, and no accountability. Speaking of accountability, let's talk about the border. NBC is reporting that some illegal immigrants who were arrested are being released with ankle monitors or check-in calls instead of deportation. Biden's disaster at the border left ICE and Border Patrol underfunded and overwhelmed. Now Trump is stepping in. But the Dems refuse to help fund more detention centers. They're playing political games while our immigration system is bursting at the seams. Trump's administration has arrested over 8,000 illegal immigrants since returning to office. Yet the media wants to focus on the 6% who weren't deported. Why? because they need a fake narrative that makes Trump look bad. But here's the truth. Under Biden, ICE was barely even arresting people. Now, Trump is actually enforcing the law, and the left can't handle it. Now, let's talk about Gaza. Trump is playing 4D chess again. The media is screaming about his comments on Gaza, claiming it's a reversal of his America First foreign policy. But let's be real. Hamas turned Gaza into a war zone. The entire region is a disaster zone thanks to decades of failed Democrat-led foreign policy. And here's what the media won't tell you. Trump is not sending American troops into Gaza. He made it clear that the U.S. is working with allies to rebuild Gaza without putting American boots on the ground or spending taxpayer money. Trump wants peace. He brokered the Abraham Accords when the left said peace in the Middle East was impossible. Now he's doing it again, talking with world leaders, working out deals, and pushing for solutions. Meanwhile, the Democrats? They're stuck in the same old failed policies. And let's not forget the woke insanity happening right here at home. Trump just signed a huge executive order stopping biological men from competing in women's sports. Finally! The Olympic Committee, the NCAA, and other organizations will have to get in line or face consequences. It's common sense. Women's sports should be for women. And of course, the media is already freaking out. Groups like the ACLU and woke activists are calling it discriminatory. But let's be real. The real discrimination is against young girls who train for years only to have their records smashed by biological men. Final thoughts. Trump is out here making bold moves, cleaning up the government, securing the border, and fighting for common sense policies. Meanwhile, the left is pushing insane rhetoric, calling for violence, and losing their minds over every little thing he does. The double standards are insane, but we see what's happening. What do you guys think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more daily coverage of the political madness happening right now.